after a week of getting sick 6 to 12 times every day, I discovered that the reason for this was I was pregnant and not terminally ill. From the moment I discovered I was pregnant with Angie, she was a challenge. By the time she arrived on April 29, 1985, she was 2 weeks overdue, which those of you in the medical profession know turns a woman temporarily into a crazy person. I had been hospitalized 3 times and lost 26 pounds by the time she arrived. At birth, she weighed 8 pounds, 2 ounces, and was healthy. I consider her my miracle baby. As a child, she had most of you fooled into believing she was Angie the Angel. She was so loving and outgoing that she never had to walk anywhere here at Fairview because someone was always carrying her. In stores, you had to keep an eagle eye on her because she would tug on strangers' clothing and announce, "Hi, I'm Angie." Her most recent job was at Jeffrey Bean, a clothing store, and I told her that with her winning smile, she could sell clothes to a nudist. At home, she and her sister Michelle developed a love-hate relationship. One moment they would be screaming and pulling each other's hair. The next they would be laughing, playing, and bouncing around the living room. Michelle and Angie, while they had no qualms about inflicting mental and or physical anguish on each other, allowed absolutely no one else to do it. If you messed with one, you were going to feel the wrath of the other one. When discipline was necessary, Angie was a little smarter than her sister because she knew when to keep her mouth shut. She had no intention of correcting her behavior, but she was wise enough to keep quiet. Michelle, on the other hand, could stretch one day of punishment into a week because of her inability to remain silent at the appropriate time. Angie was an athlete, but was not into competition. She played and was good at softball, ping pong, tennis, gymnastics, to name a few. She taught gymnastics to young children in Angola for a while. She was on the varsity soccer team in Angola and started for 3 years in high school. At an early age, Angie made a decision for Jesus and was baptized. As she entered middle school, she began to ask those hard questions that kids that age ask. She hated being a pastor because of having to live in a fishbowl, and because she heard the words, "And your father is a pastor," when she messed up. Feeling that she was expected to somehow be perfect, and because she knew this was impossible, she gave up trying for a while. I share this information just as a challenge to each of you here today, wherever you attend church. Please don't add the added burden of perfection on your pastor's children, your deacon's children, your elders' children, anybody's children. They can't live up to that. It's hard enough having to share your father with hundreds of people. Please treat them with the patience any other child needs and deserves. When Angie became pregnant as a senior, at first I was embarrassed and angry. But as some of you, my dear and wise friends, pointed out, Kathy, this is not about you, it's about Angie, and she needs you now more than ever to model the unconditional love that Christ has for each of us. As a result, we now have our beloved little Allie in our lives, and have had the privilege of having Greg Maurer as our son-in-law. For reasons that are unimportant now, this marriage did not last, even though deep down they still loved each other very much. Angie's death has hit Greg very hard. To him, I would say that you will always be a valued and loved part of our family. Please don't spend too much time reliving any past words or actions between you and Angie that you may now regret. Rather, seek and listen to what God would like you to learn from this. We all can honor Angie's memory by pulling together to provide Allie with the happiest, most loving childhood possible. Having lost my own mother almost exactly 47 years ago in a car accident, my heart aches and breaks for Allie. It will be easy for me to want to lavish on her anything and everything she wants. Please pray for me to be able to do the usual amount of grandmotherly spoiling, but to also provide appropriate discipline when she's with me. I would like to thank my wonderful husband, Mike, my precious daughter, Michelle, my dear parents, Jim and Juan Engel, my mother and father-in-law, Bob and Helen Kane, my brothers, David, Larry, and Dana, and their spouses, Joyce, Margie, and Cheryl, my sister, Marcia, who has been with me since Friday, and her husband, Dale, who drove her here, my sister, Carol, all my nieces, nephews, and spouses, my Uncle Daryl and Uncle Laurel and their wives, Aunt Albina and Aunt Joy, my son-in-law, Quentin Young and his family, my son-in-law, Greg Nauer and his family, my bosses, Larry and David Watkins, my girls at work, Tanya, who drove here straight through from Tampa Bay in 18 hours, and I'm just sure she had to set some speed records, and who was responsible for designing all the paper items you see here today in this beautiful butterfly on top of the casket. All of our friends, all of Michelle's friends, all of Angie's friends, and all of our church family, especially from Lake, Pettisville, Sunlight, and Fairview Missionary Churches. We've had the love and support of so many friends I can't begin to name them all. We've had food delivered, some of which I have no idea where it came from. Our yard has been mowed. Tribute boards and videos have been prepared. Our refrigerator and our house have been cleaned, and I hope the clean refrigerator did not find any science fair projects. We've had a chauffeur, switchboard operator, dishwashers, chefs, busboys, personal physicians, and nurses. We've been comforted and amazed by the fact that we have not had to deal with any strangers in preparing for this funeral. We know the funeral director and his wife. We know the florist and the cemetery caretaker. The police officer who delivered the news knows Michelle, and the chaplain who was with him knows Mike. All of this has somehow eased the trauma of this night. We may never understand the side of heaven why tragedies like this happen. After my mother, who was a wonderful Christian woman, died 47 years ago, I decided I wanted to live my life in a way that she would be proud of and that would honor her memory. My challenge to all of us now would be to do the same, to honor Angie's memory by drawing closer to God and by loving each other with a renewed passion.